Good Saturday, September 12th, everyone. Well, we have been looking at very smoky and hazy skies out there. I don't have to tell you that. You can see it, you can smell it, and really it kind of makes that appearance of an overcast sky over much of Northern California, all the way up through the Pacific Northwest of Oregon and Washington because they are facing their own fires. It's been one heck of a week, to say the least. Take a look at some of these photos because these have really painted the picture for a lot of people across the area who've been sending us their photos, so thank you so much for doing so. You can upload your photos to the ABC 10 app. Just download that app yourself from the Google Play or App Store. All right, so take a look at this. The sunrise, the sunsets, they've been gorgeous, right? We get the sun coming down, coming up. It's reflecting off of the smoke and the haze. But we've also been getting, again, that smoke and haze. And take a look at this photo from Auburn. Thank you, Rick, for sending that in. You can see a little pup there trying to walk through that. I don't recommend being outdoors too long, especially with the unhealthy air quality, and that's pretty much what we're dealing with today. Now, we may see a little bit of relief, especially moving into tomorrow, Sunday, as we are starting to see some winds picking up for your Sunday. All right, the smoke and haze will impact the air quality. We all know that, but it's also impacting temperatures, because temperatures out there have been much cooler. I'm talking 10 degrees cooler than previously forecasted last week. We originally thought we'd be in the mid-90s by around this time this week. Now it looks like we're really right around those mid to even upper 80s, so we are definitely cooler. And we're cooler because of something called albedo, the albedo effect, where basically it's kind of like when you have snow out there, you have the sun that hits the snow and it reflects off and you realize, hey, I'm sunburned. Similar, except we have the sun reflecting off of that smoke and haze, and it can't really penetrate the valley, so it gets reflected off of that, and that's actually keeping us much cooler, even as much as 10 degrees cooler for the valley, especially today. Now, the possibility for rain is still in the forecast, and that's a pretty good possibility. I'm talking right now at this point in time, about a 50-50 chance. Just a coin flip out there to see if we get rain next week. And I'll show you why just in a couple minutes. So let's take a look at what's going on out there. We do have some watches and warnings still in effect, and for all of our friends in the Pacific Northwest to Northern California, you can see all of this gray zone here all the way through the San Joaquin Valley down into Fresno. The air quality warning is in place, and we are looking at that until at least 12 a.m. on Tuesday for pretty poor air quality. It's not anything you really should go outside, run, work out in, spend long periods of time in. The pollutants out there, even if you can breathe, it's just not good for your lungs. So just limit that time and pay attention to those who are really sensitive to it. People with asthma, respiratory issues, especially COVID, even older people and very small kids who may have trouble breathing. So it's going to be a concern for a lot of people. So here's what's happening. As of early morning hours on Saturday, we've been looking at the unhealthy air quality basically for everyone, right? Everyone's in the red zone. We do have some small spots in purple. That's very unhealthy to hazardous. Around the Lincoln area and just towards the north of Roseville toward Yuba City, we are starting to see a lot more of that bad air quality. What's happening is we're getting an easterly wind this morning, offshore flow of winds. That usually happens overnight. You get onshore in the day, it's a diurnal effect, offshore at night. And what's happening is we are starting to get the offshore effect where you get the fires that may be burning right around there and they're pushing towards the south and offshore. So that's where we're kind of seeing some of the worst air quality currently, but we will expect to see a little bit of a change coming up, especially tomorrow. So here's what's happening, and I really want to show you this. I get so excited about it because it's just so much science and so much is involved that it's amazing how everything works in conjunction with each other. So I do want to show you this high pressure system that's sitting overhead, right? That's kind of just putting everything in place. We're not seeing major wind events because of the high pressure. Usually high pressure systems, when they're very strong and dominant, will just keep everything in place. It's like putting the pot lid on the pot and everything, and the steam and everything just stays in, right? Once you release it, just everything comes out of it, right? So I want to give you that analogy so you can maybe understand what's happening. The high pressure, basically the lid on the pot, is keeping everything in place, and that's why the air quality is becoming so bad right now. And even though there's a flow that goes around this, the winds that circulate around the high, they're pushing them just overhead here. So the fires land right around there, and the wind circulation's pushing them currently toward the west, so from the east to the west. Now here's where it's going to get interesting, because we are expecting some chances, fingers crossed, for rain. Mostly seeing that rain though for Oregon, but we do have a chance for Northern California to see it. So here's the first system. This low pressure system right behind the high will be the first one to bring us at least winds. That's okay. We're going to clear the air a little bit. So the winds, this will start shifting up, moving up toward the north. So as it does so, that'll bring us winds and possibility for rain Monday into Tuesday for Oregon. Now this low pressure system out to sea is right behind it. That's the one by Friday that could bring us some rain, especially as it starts to dip down south and then move itself back up and over again. So it's going to do this little trough up and down effect as we start moving toward next week. So it's very exciting to see kind of them interacting with each other and how much moisture it could start bringing in, because the humidity levels have been much higher because of the fact that we're getting an onshore flow of winds. So basically from the ocean inland, that's bringing in some moisture, right? Usually when we have a high pressure like we have last week in place, it's just not bringing any winds at all. It was currently just kind of making everything sit in place. We weren't seeing very high humidity levels. They were so dry by the afternoon hours. Usually you recover overnight and get better humidity levels overnight. That's typical. But even overnight, we weren't recovering well. We were getting very low levels, still around 30-35%, which is pretty low for the overnight numbers. And it's pretty much what we're seeing in Auburn overnight. So you notice that number there. That was very much like that for a lot of people across the valley as of last Tuesday. Now we're starting to recover overnight. We saw 90% humidity in the early morning hours of Saturday, but that's because here's what's happening. The air quality, the ash, the smoke, everything floating in the air that literally hits your eyes and you're trying to rub it out, all of those particles are getting a tiny bit. And this is what I mean, just the tiniest bit of moisture. And it doesn't have to be a lot because it attaches to the ash. It's called condensation nuclei. What happens is a little tiny piece of moisture just lands on the ash and it starts to expand. So if you ever dropped a water droplet on something, it expands a little bit. Well, now it can grasp onto the ash and it's adding to the humidity in the air, which has been really great for us. And if we can continue to do that, that would help us out a bit, especially as firefighters are still trying to handle those fires. Now, here's where it's going to get a little scary as we move into Sunday, because now we're going to see that low pressure start to arrive offshore and that will speed up the winds for us. So here's what we're looking at as of Saturday night. We'll be right around 5 to 10 miles per hour. You notice we're starting to flare up a tiny bit because there's a disturbance offshore. The low pressure will begin to move in by Sunday. So we move into Sunday here. I do want to fast forward it by Sunday night. 5:30 p.m. You notice that we start really picking up those winds. They're coming in mostly out of the west and going their way to the north. So we're seeing it offshore low pushing up. And that's going to mostly come in out of the southwest with winds here 5 to 10 miles per hour. But again, we have the flare-ups there in green with 20 mile per hour winds to 25, even 30 miles per hour, as we can see wind gusts that high moving into Sunday into Monday. Now, these numbers aren't really coming in here for Tuesday just yet, so we might have to wait to see that. But we do expect things to start slowing down Tuesday just a bit. The biggest ramp up Sunday into Monday. All right, this is where it gets so interesting. When can we see the rain? Here we go. Ready for this? Okay, so Sunday, you're taking a look at some of the rain and moisture offshore. That's when the winds pick up, but it's not close enough to bring us rain. Again, it's going to be moving its way up into Oregon. We'll get the effects of that in terms of the winds, but not necessarily the moisture. So here it goes, and then we fast forward it. It's pushing up toward Oregon as we get to about 11 p.m. Sunday. You can see some of it offshore. It'll get a little closer, especially Monday and Tuesday for them. But notice for us, we stop it here on Wednesday into Friday. I'll stop it on Friday 1:30. We are starting to see a lot of rain, especially some stronger rain offshore and onshore there for the borderline of Oregon and California. So if we can hold on and hopefully get enough pressure to push some of that rain inland, hopefully we can get some of that rain through Northern California. At this point, I'm not seeing any major instability that would bring us maybe lightning strikes, but we're going to have to just keep an eye on it and make sure that that's not going to be the case. But this is going to be our best shot for rain on Friday. So fingers crossed. I doubt it will move into the Sacramento area, but hey, that's not the biggest concern. Right now, the concerns are the August complex fire and then, of course, the North complex fire right there. So at least the August might get some rain on it because it's been one of the biggest burning fires so far in California history. So it's a huge one. If we can get enough water on that, we should be fine. But of course, after that comes potential for mudslides and debris flows. So hopefully that won't be a big issue for us as we start moving through Friday into next weekend. All right, so I'm glad I got to show you that briefly because I get excited when I can see something new coming into the forecast that can bring us some relief and hopefully help us out moving into fall. All right, temperatures though are going to be cooler, so at least that's a positive because man, we have been looking at those mid 90s. We had 110, 113 last week. I mean, just before Labor Day and on Labor Day. So it's been an insane year, right? In terms of high and low swings. I mean, on top of COVID, my goodness, it's just been a year. So now we're finally looking at mid to upper 80s. So thank goodness for that. And then the following week, we'll continue to see some more mid to upper 80s at this point in time. That's as far out as we can see, but it's looking good so far.